All right, I'll go ahead and start us off here with the movie Why Don't You Just Die? Fun title. We'll talk more about it later. So this is the directorial feature debut. He's done a bunch of shorts of Russian filmmaker Kirill Sokolov. And let me tell you, this is a red-soaked production. Blood red, Russian red, communist red, what have you. All of it. It's all here. So anyway, the closest movie has to a hero is Matvey, a 20-something-year-old punk who sets off the action by knocking on the door of his girlfriend's parents' place with one hand and holding a steel-headed hammer in the other. So push comes to shove, the father, Andre, who gives a wholly brutish performance, by the way. I know you've seen it, so we'll talk to you in a little bit about it. So Andre opens the door, and Matvey can't go through with it. You know how you sort of hype yourself up to do something, and then once you're like faced with the reality, or you put a face to the hatred that you're holding, like you can't go through with it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happens here. So the dad awkwardly invites him into the apartment. Most of the movie will take place in this apartment, and this is actually one of the first points I wanted to make about this. The production design here is incredibly deceptive and effective. It has that sort of 1950s domestic tranquil vibe to it that makes the place almost feel like it belongs in the middle of a nuke town or something. And then soon enough, appropriately, the place explodes. As it turns out, the dad is like a legend, like a local legend of a police detective, and can smell danger from a mile away. So he and Matvey blow up into this crazy brawl that jumpstarts the movie. I won't spoil necessarily why Matvey has like jumped into this family's life, but what I will say is that he's at the whim of a vengeful daughter, and wearing a Batman sweatshirt the whole time throughout the entire movie, it becomes clear that he's the only person in this situation who thinks he's doing the right thing. That's why I called him a hero early on. But anyway, during this process, other characters are introduced into the story. Matvey's girlfriend, the father's daughter, Olya, I think is her name, Olya, I think that's how you pronounce it. His wife, Andre's wife, and also his best friend and sidekick detective. So the movie takes breaks in the action to fill in the holes these introductions leave behind, and there are three of them specifically. There's one for Matvey, there's one for his daughter, and there's one for his detective buddy. And while I often have trouble with these sorts of expository excuses to like stop the action like this, I found them pretty helpful here and also entertaining. This is a very smartly constructed story, one that holds a deep respect for its film inspirations and for its genre grandeur. I love alliteration, so I am so guilty of alliterating everything. But if you're the kind of person who can handle this kind of movie, and based on that description, this is this is a movie that is incredibly violent and stimulating both in a visual and mental manner, then this movie will have something for you. There are hefty hints of Tarantino, Boyle, and especially Guy Ritchie here. Guy Ritchie has been on both of our minds since The Gentleman. And also I rewatched Snatch and Lock, Stock recently, so I've really been feeling the Guy Ritchie thing. But there's also a pretty straight channel directly to Sergio Leone's spaghetti westerns here as well, which I know we both appreciate. And The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly is like my favorite film of all time. And I know Once Upon a Time in America, or Once Upon a Time in the West, is your favorite western, right?
Agreed. Yeah, it's my third favorite film of all time.
Right. So I'm almost certain we both appreciated the Leone vibes, especially like with the Morricone like techno soundtrack, and the standoff scenes felt straight ripped out of those old westerns. I loved it. But there really is something for everybody. So it's like, even though I love Tarantino and Guy Ritchie, it's like the Sergio Leone thing really brought it home for me. The only real complaints that I have is that the experience can get exhausting at points, especially when the context behind the violence has yet been explained. So that makes the beginning portions of the movie, roughly the first 20 minutes, sort of discombobulating and overwhelming. but subtlety is very clearly not a part of this movie. The original Russian title translated to Daddy Die. That's literally the original Russian title. So I think that pretty much tells you everything you need to know about it. I'm going to give this 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, like you already said, I also watched the movie. I finished it probably like 30 minutes before we started recording this podcast, and I found this movie to be a delight. You actually told me to go in blind.
I sent it to Eric because as soon as I saw it, I'm like, Eric is going to love this, and I sent it to him. I forwarded the email and said, don't look up anything.
It's like, just start the movie. And the moment that, like, I see just this, like, nervous-looking kid and this brutish-looking dad, and the kid's holding a hammer, I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I deeply enjoyed the movie. I think it was great. I agree with all the directors that you compared it to. I actually also compared it to Edgar Wright at times. There were many times where it reminded me a lot of more so like Scott Pilgrim or Hot Fuzz with the choice of transitions or editing style. In particular with the main character's name I can't remember, but like when he's stuck in the bathroom, the way that they cut
Matt Vey.
Yeah. When they cut to him in the bathroom when he's chained up, the way that they edit around that entire scene reminded me a lot of like Edgar Wright movies. So I dug this movie a lot. I would agree. I'll give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I think it's a really, 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 really entertaining movie.